Okay, so today we're going to talk about mathematics of buying. That is chapter 7. The specific chapter contents are going to be 7.1 invoices and trade discounts, 7.2 series discounts and single discount equivalents, 7.3 cash discounts, ordinary dating methods, and 7.4 cash discounts, other dating methods. The textbook goes on to discuss invoices and trade discounts and talks a little bit about the supply chain. And when we're talking about the supply chain, we're talking about how money flows from suppliers to manufacturers to wholesalers to retailers and then finally to the consumer or the customer. That process, the money, essentially the products will move from the left to the right, supplier, manufacturer, wholesaler, retailer. And then money moves from the retailer, wholesaler, manufacturer, and supplier. So in this case, we're going to be talking about the buyer, in which case when you're a buyer, you'll receive invoices, okay? Now an invoice often comes with what's referred to our trade discounts. And a trade discount is essentially some type of an offering to a customer that says, you don't have to pay the regular price, you can take a discount of some sort. And there are various reasons for those trade discounts. In some cases it's because they're buying in bulk, or maybe they've got long-term commitments or contracts with them. So they'll set it like a common price, or a price where I don't want to say the general population, because usually suppliers are not going to be selling to the general population, but in essence just they'll put like maybe a catalog out with certain prices on it, and then that's considered to be the list price. And so when a supplier comes in to purchase it, they may offer better prices and offer some discounts. Before we get too far from that, we got to learn specific types of terms. FOB, shipping point. Now this is where I'm going to disagree a little bit with the textbook. The textbook focuses on FOB as being who is responsible for the shipping or paying for the shipping, and I think that may be the case, or at least that was the origins of who pays for shipping. But the bottom line is, when you're identifying FOB, whether it's going to be the shipping point or the destination, you'll see you have shipping point and destination. Here they're saying the shipping point means that the buyer pays for the shipping cost. FOB destination says the seller pays for the shipping charges. But the reality is that's just kind of incidental. The big lesson to learn about FOB is that it defines where the exchange takes place. In other words, does it take place at the shipping point from the seller's perspective? Once they ship it off, put it up on a freight carrier, that property now becomes the buyer's rather than the seller's? Or is it destination, where the seller is going to maintain ownership of the property until it reaches the dock of the buyer? And so that's pretty important, because if you have a shipment that's coming overseas, and if a shipment for whatever reason maybe goes through a storm or something in turbulent times and goes under, then the question is going to be who owns that property? Is it the buyer or the seller? If it's the buyer, then the buyer is going to end up losing money or lose that inventory that just fell in the ocean, right? So they'll have a claim against the carrier. If it's the seller, if the seller owns the property, then the seller is the one that loses. So FOB, again, the textbook refers to it as more about the shipping terms, but I'm going to suggest to you that what's most important about FOB is that it dictates where the exchange takes place, or where the title transfers of the property. So FOB, where the exchange takes place. There's also COD, cash on delivery, which is pretty obvious. And free alongside ship, FAS, goods are delivered to the dock with all freight charges to that point paid by the seller. Here's an example of an invoice from JB Share, and you can see that the way the terms are negotiated is on the front end. So JB Share will negotiate with the buyer. Apparently they sold product to Bed Bath & Beyond. And then in that discussion, or in that negotiations, they will determine what the terms are. Some other things that are going to be dictated is the invoice date, the terms, and here's what's kind of interesting, and we'll talk a little bit more, is that companies often sell it for retail, but then offer a cash discount. In other words, if a company pays within a certain number of days, then they'll get a cash discount. So for example, this says 1% 15 days, net 30. What this really means is if you pay within 15 days, then you can take a 1% discount. 1% 15 days. Otherwise, net 30. Otherwise, in other words, the payment for the full payment is due in that 30 days. All right. Some abbreviations that you need to get familiar with. These are in your textbooks. You can look at it a little bit closer. But EA means each. Does means dozen. Some of these are going to be pretty obvious, but and you'll probably learn a little bit more if you're dealing with an invoice for a specific company or a specific industry. They use, they may be even using their own abbreviations. But you can get a feel for all those types of abbreviations that are pretty common with billing and invoices. So take a view of that, study that a bit. All right, now what we want to do is calculate trade discounts and understand why they are given. So a trade discount is given, like I mentioned to you before, in case there's some incentives that you want to give to a buyer. You want to say, okay, well, if you buy an X amount of quantity, then we're going to give you a trade discount. And the formula for the net cost is going to be, net costs will be equal to the list price minus the trade discount. So the key is going to be, that's pretty simple. That's this number minus that. That's pretty simple. But the question is how do we come up with the trade discount? So as an example here, we have the list price of a commercial grade Cuisinart food processor. I think I said that right. But I guess the list price is $189.20. But there is a trade discount of 25% given to Bed Bath & Beyond due to the volume of purchases. All right. So find the net cost. Well, first of all, we have to figure out what is 25% of $189.20. So we'll take that computation, we'll say, okay, we'll take the $189 and we'll multiply it by 25%. So specifically, the formula would be, if I were writing this down on the board, I would just simply be writing down 189.20, 189.20, and then I'm going to be multiplying it. I'll put this multiplication because when you say of, remember, multiplication is implied with the letter or with the word of, and then the discount is going to be 25%. So we'll use our calculators. We'll take the 182.20 and we'll multiply it by the 25%, and our calculation should be $47.30. So in fact, it is $47.30, and then we're going to use that previous formula, net cost minus the list price equals the list price minus the trade discount. So we computed the trade discount because it's 25%. We're going to take the list price of $189.20 and subtract $47.30. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and ask you to go ahead and let's see this next problem. Well, no, we'll talk a little bit about more. So we're gonna differentiate between single and series discounts. In example 1, we had a single discount of 25%. Sometimes 2 or more discounts are combined into a series of discounts, or a series discount, also called a chain discount. All right. So what we have to do is we have to calculate each series discount separately. The first of the 3 methods of finding the discount requires the discount to be calculated separately, but we're not going to start with the first number to begin with. We're simply going to just keep discounting the number that we resolve with. So the example here is Bed Bath & Beyond offers a series discount of 2010. That means they're going to take a 20% discount and then a 10% discount. So the question is how do we compute that? Well, we've got to figure out first the 20%. Then we're going to figure out the 10%. So the list price is $150. So the first step we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, well, there's 2 discounts involved. Okay, there's 2 discounts involved. So the list price, let's see what the list price was, $150. So we'll take $150. And we're going to take the first, it's 2010, so the first 20, we're going to say, okay, well that's going to be multiplied. To find that discount, we're going to simply multiply 150 by 20%. Okay? So let's work through this problem. We'll take that 150 multiplied. Use your calculators to do this. You don't have to worry how I'm doing it on a spreadsheet. That's irrelevant. You can just do it on your calculators. And you'll end up with a $30 discount. Now, before we go to the next discount, we essentially have to take that 150. We'll take the 150, and then we'll subtract. We'll take the 150, we'll subtract from that the $30. So we're going to take that right off the top. So 150 minus the $30 gives us $120. Okay, so remember the discount is 2010. So now we've taken off the first 20% and we've ended up with 120. So now we're going to take that 120, multiply it by the next discount term, which was 10%. So we'll get our calculators out. We'll take 120, multiply it by 10%, and we'll get $12. Now with that, then we have enough information where we could actually run the computations. We'll take the 120 again, and we'll subtract to $12, so that my net price is going to be $108. Does that make sense? Well, let's make sure. Let's go. We came up with 108, so let's see what the textbook comes up with. 108, they came up with 108, just like we had figured it out. Now, in some cases, we can use what is referred to as the complement. The complement to compute the discount. Some people maybe find that a little simpler than actually running through all these discounts and computing them over and over and over again. But we're always trying to simplify things. So we can use the complement as a way of coming up with a discount. So for example, when we're talking about a complement, we're talking about taking, as an example, 10% as a decimal would be 0.1. If we want to find the complement, we take 1 minus that and we'll get the complement. So in other words, the complement of 10% is 90%, or 0.9. The complement of 20% is 80%, or 0.8. 25 is 75, 30 is 70, and 62% is 38. So in other words, instead of going through and figuring out what the 10% is and then subtracting it, well, why don't we just skip a step here and just figure out in our heads, well, we know 10% is the discount, so what we're actually going to pay is 90%, or 0.9. And so we can take whatever the base is, or the original price, and multiply it by 0.9, and that's going to give us what we're going to actually pay. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and I want you, right here we have Kitchen Crafters is offered a series discount of 2010 on a George Foreman grilling machine with a list price of $139.99. Find the net cost after the series discount. Now, in this example here, we want you to do it a little bit different. So in this case, we're still talking about 2010. So you're thinking, okay, I'll just take 20% and then take whatever the list price and then take it. But instead of doing that, what we're going to end up working toward is trying to figure out a way to make this easier for us. All right? We're going to take the 20% and figure out what the decimal equivalent is. That's 0.2. The complement is 0.8. Then we're going to figure out what the series discount is on the second term, and that's 10%, so that's 0.1. Well, the complement is 0.9. Now, we could actually figure out what the bottom line complement is going to be by simply multiplying these numbers together. So 0.8 times 0.9, well, if you know what 8 times 9 is, which you should by now, that's 72. So now we know so 0.8 times 0.9 is actually 0.72. So if we take the 139.99, multiply it by 0.72, we'll get the 100.79. Okay, so let's go ahead and see if we can figure this one out. We'll go up. The list price of Heartland 30-inch combination gas and electric stove is $3,095. So let me pull over this here, and we'll use our notes. So the list price is $3,095. All right, and the terms are 20, 10, 10. So in other words, you have a 20 and first a 20, then a 10, then a 10. Now, based upon what we just learned right now, let's see if we could. I'm going to go ahead and you could probably cheat if you want to, but it's up to you. What we're going to do is, what I'm going to ask you to do is go ahead and see if you could figure out this problem then. So based upon what we just know, find the complements of each, then multiply those complements together, then multiply that up against the base price. And that should give you your time. So go ahead and press pause on the video, try to figure it out yourself, and then we'll work on it together. Okay, so hopefully you've got it done right, and hopefully it's all done, but what we're going to do is really find the complements. We're going to find the complements of 20. So if I know the complement of 20 in this discount, well, really the decimal is 0.2, so the complement is going to be 0.8. Okay, then we're talking about 10. Well, the complement of 10, it's going to be 0.10 is the decimal, so the complement is going to be 0.9, and then it's going to happen again, 10 and 0.9. So we can take our calculators and we can take 0.9 times 0.9, I'm sorry, 0.8 times 0.9 times 0.9, and we're going to get 0.648. So now we have the number that we can use to multiply against the original price. So we'll take that $3,095, and then we'll multiply it by 0.648. So that's going to be a multiplication problem, right? So 3095 multiplied by 0.648 is 2,556. So with the discount terms of 20, 10, 10, we're going to end up paying the price of 2,566. Let's see if we got that right. 2,556. Now, the good news is that there are actually some tables that are published every now and then, and so rather than struggle with trying to do the computations themselves, you can do the lookups. So if you've got a 5 and 5, well, that's going to be the equivalent of series discount will be 0.9025. 15, 10, 25. 15, 10, 25 will give you 0.57375. Okay, so let's go ahead and take this problem, and I'll go ahead and cover up the solutions here. Use the table to find the net cost equivalents of the following series discounts. Oh, so just find, look back at that table and you'll be good to go. Go ahead and do that first, and then we'll do it together. Okay, so let's see, let's just go to C, 25.5, so we'll go ahead and go back to that page. 25, 25, and 5, 0.534375, 0.53, let's write that down so that we don't forget. It's pretty easy to forget that number. So the discount number, or the discount we want is 0.534375. Okay, let's see if we got it right. That was for C, 0.53475.